Tonight's debate, just so you know, is being broadcast live on Facebook, courtesy of Tri-Cities Community TV. And they've, just so you know, they've done over 50 profiles of the Tri-Cities of all the candidates for all the cities, and you can find them on their Tri-Cities Community TV YouTube channel. Is that right, Jeff? We got that right? So if you want to know more about them individually, just go on YouTube and check out the Tri-Cities Community TV channel. For those of you who are with us for the first time tonight, we use a technology called Slido to ask your questions. So you got to get your smartphone out and log into slido.com, and there's your passcode to go in, hashtag COQ, and you can ask questions. You can vote on questions that have been submitted by people, and so as we go through the night, the question with the most votes will likely get asked, but no guarantees, but it will likely get asked. What's going to happen is we're going to call the people up here. We'll call our candidates up one at a time. They'll get 1 minute to give you their elevator speech. I know that's a short period of time for a politician, but we're going to try to make it work. So I get 1 minute to introduce themselves. Then we're going to bring them up in groups of 3 or 4, and they're going to all debate various questions for about 13 or 14 minutes. We'll bring the next group up. And at the end, they're all going to get 30 seconds, so we're really testing their elevator pitches to see how they do their closing statements. So I think that covers everything. I've got everything else. We're good to go. The candidates look like they're ready. So we're going to start it off. We'll hear from our 1 minute each from our 2 mayoralty candidates. Our timer's up front there. She's got the 1 minute time. And we got a little sign. We got a bell. So if you go over time, you're going to hear the bell. And I will cut you off. First off, we'll start out with Adele Gamar. Please step up to the mic. Yep, there.
Will I be afforded a couple of seconds to raise the music stand?
As a tall guy, I'll say yes.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You totally understand our circumstances.
I do, sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
And the bell's right there? Perfect. All right. My family moved to Coquitlam in 1987. I graduated from Centennial in 93, and it is here that my wife and I are raising our 5 wonderful daughters. I've studied and worked internationally. I became a school teacher. I studied public policy at Harvard, and I co-founded a management consulting company. I'm running for mayor because I want to give back to the city that raised me. We all know people who've moved out of Coquitlam because they cannot afford to live here. Seniors who are struggling, families who can't find reliable childcare, places that have been written off, people who've been taken for granted. We can do better. We must do better. Over the past decade, the current mayor has presided over the greatest housing affordability crisis in Coquitlam's history. The people of Coquitlam must expect more from their mayor. In just 3 weeks' time, we have the opportunity to restore faith in City Hall. We can solve the challenges of our city. There is one check on the well-being of our democracy, and that is you, your voice, your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, Mr. Richard Stewart.
Thank you very much. I've lived all my life in Coquitlam. I've participated in all aspects of this community, and I know many of you. I thank you all for coming out, because democracy is really important, and we need folks to come out, to pay attention, and to vote. We in Coquitlam have had to really have tackled a lot of the challenges that we've faced as a region. And those are regional challenges: homelessness and housing. Those are challenges that affect every community in the region. And here in Coquitlam, we've done some special work for a number of years in order to try to make sure that we have the best realities associated with housing and affordability, and we've achieved some absolutely wonderful gains. We still have work to do, though, and these are challenges that will continue. And we, as a community, I think I'm really proud of the work that Council has done in the last few years in creating a community that has lots to be proud of. And I want to continue to do that work because we still have work to do.
Next up, Mr. Brent Asmussen.
I'm Brent Asmussen. I've lived in Coquitlam since 1990. I started involved in my community as part of a member of the North East Ratepayers Association, president of the Ratepayers Association. I've been involved in trying to make my community better, and that's why I ran for council the first time. And I still believe there's more challenges ahead of me to work on making this community a better place for all of us to live in. I've raised my 2 children here. I now have 2 grandchildren growing up here, so I have a vested interest in this issue going forward. I am proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I'm proud of what this council has done with our housing affordability strategy, where in the last 2 years, we've created over 4,000 rental units and below-market rental units in this city. We brought the SkyTrain here in 2016. We're making improvements moving forward. I want to continue to do that work to improve the city, to improve the lives, but without impacting your taxes and trying to do it in the most cost-effective way. So on October 20th, please vote Grant Asmussen for council. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Darrell Stickler.
Coquitlam families need a voice on City Council. Our current councillors represent unions, big developers, and other special interest groups. Who's looking after you and your family? I am. My name is Darrell Stickler. I'm in my 30s, I have a business degree in finance from one of the best business schools in our country, and I'm committed to keeping taxes under control. I work as a commercial banker and regularly negotiate with developers and business owners, negotiating for the benefit of my community and getting more for Coquitlam's residents is what I can do for you and your family on City Council. I attended Porter Elementary, Como Lake Middle, and Centennial Secondary. I give back to my community by coaching youth lacrosse for Coquitlam's boys and girls. Today, my wife Dawn and I live with our 2 sons in the New Horizons neighborhood, just across the street. And I'm happy to run and represent you and run for City Council. I'll just close off here by saying I'm a stickler for responsible development, parks and recreation, and restoring communities.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mr. Steve Kim.
First off, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting us today. Friends, neighbors, my name is Steve Kim and I'm running for Coquitlam City Council. My family moved here in 1981 when I was 8 years old, and we came from the downtown east side, and this community raised me. I graduated from Centennial, moved on to go attend University of Western Ontario, and then did my graduate studies in Korea University in Seoul. Today, I live and work in Riardville. I am an entrepreneur and a small business person. And over the past 30 plus years, almost 40 years, I've watched our city grow. And we have some amazing things happening. But with with growth comes a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of challenges. And I want to work with everyone to help solve them, especially if we can make things more affordable. When I think about also building up our business community here and nurturing entrepreneurs and bringing the right jobs so that we can also retain our talent close to home. That's what I want for Coquitlam. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Massimo Mandarino was scheduled to be here, but has not shown up yet, so we'll move along. It looks like next on the list is Mr. Ben Craig.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Alex. Thanks to the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce for hosting this important event. My name is Ben Craig. I'm your independent candidate for Coquitlam City Council. Our local government has become unaffordable. Development all over our city is generating millions of dollars of new tax revenue for City Hall. The property tax burden is being shared by more residents than ever. So why are our property taxes rising at higher than the rate of inflation? You don't have to be a numbers guy like me to recognize a problem with that math. So where's our money going? I'll tell you. It's going towards growth of local government. In my business, I help my clients manage their finances and save for retirement. We all want nice things, but they must fit into our budget. Your local government is under no such constraints. Let's remember, government doesn't spend their own money. They spend our money. And we deserve better. If you share these values, then vote for Ben Craig on October 20th. Thank you.
Next up will be Mr. Craig Hodge.
Good evening. My name is Craig Hodge, and I've represented you on Coquitlam City Council for the past 7 years. I grew up in Coquitlam, I graduated from Centennial Secondary School, and I spent my career working as a photojournalist in this community, where I saw firsthand the issues that affect our citizens. Today, my wife Darla and I are raising our 3 boys here, the 3rd generation of my family to call Coquitlam home. I coach youth soccer, I coach ball hockey, I'm a scout leader, and I'm the past president of the Coquitlam Heritage Society. I'm also a past president of this Chamber of Commerce, and I was elected 6 times by the Lower Mainland business community to the board of the British Columbia Chamber of Commerce. Today on council, I chair the Riverview Lands Advisory Committee, and I've been a strong advocate for the creation of a new mental health facility and the preservation of these beautiful grounds. I also chair the Sports Advisory Committee, and I understand the need to maintain and expand our parks, outdoor amenities, and cultural and seniors facilities.
Next up, Mr. Rob Botus.
Good evening. My name is Rob Bottas. I'd like to thank the Chamber for having us tonight, but most importantly, I would like to recognize that we are on the traditional territory, the core territory of the Coquitlam First Nation, as well as the traditional shared territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, Katzie, Squamish, and Stolo Nations. Coquitlam has been my home for the last 40 years. I moved here in 1978 when my mom, a single parent with 2 young children, was able to purchase a home in Coquitlam. Today, that same single parent would be challenged to find a place to rent, let alone own. People are concerned that the pace of change in Coquitlam is exacerbating our affordability crisis and marginalizing the most vulnerable members of our community. We must do a better job for both seniors, families, and vulnerable people in the community. As a life skills worker with special needs adults, former Scout leader, longtime union activist, and a longtime member of the Royal Canadian Legion, I have a proven track record of putting the needs of my community first. On October 20th, I'm asking for your vote. Vote Rob Bottas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bottas. Next up, Mr. Dennis Marsden.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Marsden. In 2014, I was fortunate to receive your support and was elected to City Council. That was after a lifetime of growing up here in Coquitlam, starting out as a hockey referee, becoming a bank manager, and ultimately moving into civic politics. So clearly, I like upsetting people and getting yelled at. I've had the fortune over the 4 years on council of co-chairing the Riverview Committee with Councillor Hodge. I chaired the Economic Development Committee, where what we've done is tried to focus on the opportunities of creating the environment where we can ensure that we bring good jobs here to Coquitlam. Everybody talks about the affordable housing component, and we've got some great actions that we've taken there. I can talk about those. We'll talk about fiscal responsibility. The keys that we move forward is ensuring that we create the environment for the jobs for ourselves and our kids so they can ensure that they can grow up here. I'm fortunate to call it home for myself, my wife Lisa, our 2 kids. On October 20th, I'm going to ask for your support again to return Dennis Marsden to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Trish Mandeo.
My name is Trish Mandel, and I am an independent candidate for Coquitlam City Council. Just like you, I love our city. I'm an award-winning businesswoman and a community champion. Many of you know me through my community involvement as an advisory committee member for the City of Coquitlam, past board of director for the Chamber of Commerce, current board of director for Coquitlam Foundation, Coquitlam Tennis Club, Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce, and much more. Running for council is a natural progression from my current work in the community. A vote for me is a vote for a vibrant and engaged community, to where my diverse skill set can come in handy. If elected, I will champion to make our city livable. I will create an environment that nurtures the growth of new business and generates high-paying jobs. I will do my best to make our city the best to live in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is Nicholas Sperling.
Hi there, I'm Nicholas Sperling. Housing affordability is a huge issue in our city. We have a crisis on our hands, and we have a council that talks a lot about having implemented 4,000 new rental units, but the reality is that the percentage of affordable units in our city has been dropping. And that's something that I would like to see changed. That's why I'm asking for your vote for City Council. My background in construction allows me to make informed or provide informed solutions to our housing crisis. And I also want to focus on creating a community here where folks can live, work, and play. That means supporting small businesses, implementing infrastructure that's going to carry us into the future, and making sure that we're supporting everyone in Coquitlam, regardless of their background, because we have a council that also doesn't reflect the diversity of our beautiful city. That's something that I'd like to see changed as well. And if you agree with me on October 20th, please vote for me, Nicola Sperling, for Coquitlam Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Next up is Terry Towner.
Good evening, I'm Terry Towner and I love Coquitlam. I've been serving my community in a very wide variety of ways for a very long time now, and I ran for council in 2014 to elevate my service, my commitment to my community. I'm frequently described as a community enthusiast, not a politician, a community-minded elected official, because I'm always out and about, spearheading initiatives, attending pretty much everything, engaging with residents, connecting, listening. I focus on what counts, the people. You. Coquitlam is an outstanding city in a multitude of ways, and we aren't immune to the challenges being faced by Metro Vancouver. I believe we have a lot of positive momentum going right now, and I would love to be a part of continuing with that momentum. A vote for me is a vote for community, connectedness, commitment, and collaboration. Our future is looking great. terrytowner.ca, thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Terry. Next up is Ian Sotar.
Awesome. So I'd like to start off by raising my hands to acknowledge the traditional unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nations and everywhere else that is we're currently occupying. So my name's Ian. I'm a small business owner here in Coquitlam, and I'm also engaged with the community, things like the Chamber of Commerce, specifically the new Young Professionals Program, which I'm really excited about. I just love youth engagement. That's what I'm here for. I've got my notes so I don't ramble on too much. There are many reasons why I'm running for council this year. Obviously, there's the housing crisis that we need to tackle. I've got my own personal goals of having a vibrant entertainment district in the city here, but ultimately, I'm frustrated by the lack of participation in our civic engagement from across all sectors, but specifically the youth demographic. We are the largest voting bloc in the country and the least likely to show up to vote. Why is that? I'd like to think that it might have to do with not seeing ourselves reflected in council. So vote for me. Visit my website, iansuter.com, for more details on my platform.
Thanks, Ian. Up next is Chris Wilson.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. A standing room only crowd for an all candidates meeting is awesome. I've been a member of the Chamber for 8 years, lived in Coquitlam for 28 years, and been an entrepreneur since I was 9 years old. In what seems like a lifetime ago, I had the honor of representing Canada in wrestling at the Olympics and World Championships, and for the last 5 years, I've had the honor of representing you on council in what I believe is a really balanced, responsible, and compassionate manner. Amongst other things, I've fought really hard for more robust, affordable housing measures so that Coquitlam is a community for everyone and that you have a source of employees. I've advocated strongly to get big money out of municipal politics. And outside of council, I spent a lot of time working with kids sport to make sure that all kids get a chance to play a season of sport. I want to thank everybody here tonight for throwing your hat in the ring. We have a lot of important challenges our city's dealing with, and I'm looking forward to some great discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And up next is Mr. Paul Lambert.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Lambert, and I'm hoping to earn your vote for City Council. I grew up in Coquitlam. I work here. I want to raise a family here with my partner, Jacqueline. I have a degree from economics from SFU, and I work as a small business consultant here in the Tri-Cities. I care deeply about our city, and I feel very strongly about the issues we currently face. We're doing a great job in Coquitlam with our parks, sports, and recreation, and I want to see this continue. We're beginning to have more and more challenges with roads and infrastructure, and we have more challenges to come. Our level of city spending is very concerning, increasing by 20% in just the past 4 years. I want to ensure our city spending is sustainable. I believe our current housing and development plan is deeply flawed and needs to change. We need to change from a plan that benefits developers and speculators to a plan that puts our residents first. That means building housing for all groups in our community. That also means protecting many neighborhoods from being rezoned and changed forever. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the discussion this evening.
Thank you, Paul. Up next, Mr. Robert Mazzarello. Mazzarello, my bad. I almost got through them all.
My name is Robert Mazzarello. I'm a candidate for City Councillor. As a brief background about myself, I grew up in Coquitlam, participated in community clubs and organizations where I currently coach youth soccer. I graduated from Centennial Secondary in 2005. I've attained a bachelor's degree in economics and a law degree. I am currently a lawyer, and I live in the Coquitlam neighborhood with my partner, Roxanne. I've had the opportunity to work for both a large corporation and a small company. I know the value of a dollar. I have witnessed the pressures small businesses encounter on both the cost and revenue side of the business equation. Many candidates on stage tonight will help or will want to lower the cost of doing business in Coquitlam and increase the opportunities to generate revenue. But few will mention that there is a third element to successful businesses: hiring the right employees. If it is difficult for families to live in Coquitlam, it will be difficult to find qualified, motivated, and productive employees. Policies to encourage growth in our businesses in our city must also address the unaffordability for families to live here. A holistic approach is what I intend to do as your city councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And last but not least, Benita Zarillo.
Hi, I'm Councillor Benita Zarillo, and you all have seen that the last 4 years has been about growth. And the next 4 years needs to be about infrastructure to support that growth. Examples are the expansion or redevelopment of classical art. We also have the advancement of the Burke Mountain Rec Center, and also we're all looking forward to the YMCA happening in Coquitlam. We have also expansion in our business link, which has helped our small businesses to do. We need some purpose-built rental in this community, and also some town housing down in the south of Coquitlam for our young people. And of course, many of you are curlers in the audience. We do need to fix the mistake of closing the curling rink in Coquitlam. So I'm looking forward to being your partner in that space over the next 4 years. Benita Zarillo will be at the bottom of the ballot. Start from the bottom.
Thank you, Benita. And that concludes our opening statements. Now we'll go to the debate portion. And we're going to call them up here in groups. As a reminder, each candidate will have about 60 seconds to respond to the question. And if they each have a chance to voice their opinion, if there's debate questions from that, we'll delve into that a bit. If everybody agrees, we'll just move on to the next question. We'll see where we go from there. And let's please keep this professional and courteous. Let's not be like the United States. We're better now. I think we're better now. So first off, we'll bring our mayoralty candidates up here. Del Gamar and Richard Stewart, if you guys could come up here, please.
Mr. Hyden, there's nothing wrong with the people of the United States. There's just something wrong with the current administration of the United States.
I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah.
Okay, question number one, and is a chamber question. Many businesses in the Lower Mainland, and includes the Austin Heights neighborhood in Coquitlam, are facing steep property tax hikes that are forcing them to leave the area. How would you address this problem of keeping businesses in the in Coquitlam specifically? And we'll start with Richard. You've got 1 minute to answer that.
Thank you. This is actually a massive issue that we have raised. We've been raising it to the provincial governments, successive provincial governments for years. Under the way in which taxes are calculated for business, it's a different tax rate, but it's calculated based on the assessed value. The assessed value is calculated based on what the potential use of the site is. So when land gets zoned, particularly land near SkyTrain, for example, gets zoned in higher density, its value rises enormously. Individual businesses that own their property get a windfall profit, but the businesses that lease the property under a triple net lease have to pay the enormous increase in taxes based on the windfall profit that the landlord got. And so there's a system called split assessments. I've just had to use up most of my time explaining it, but there's a system called split assessments where we can actually determine the tax rate based on what its actual use is. So that a business that, say, a single-story laundromat that's actually capable of having a 40-story tower, its taxes would be enormous because of the value of the land, even though the building is worth almost nothing. So a split assessment would say that the laundromat pays taxes based on its existing laundromat status and the value of the laundromat, and the landlord has to pay for the potential and the windfall profit and the taxes thereof.
Thanks. I'll give you a little extra time for the explanation there. Adele?
As many of you know, I'm a small business owner, and canvassing for the last little while that I've been canvassing for, just over half a year, I've been hearing the concerns of small businesses, moms and pop shops that are very concerned about taxes, raised as they are. And I believe that there is an innovative way of solving that. It is one way, and I'm not going to stand here today and explain any economical concepts that I'm pretty sure Richard Stewart and I are very familiar with. But to put things simply, we need to be attracting a lot of diverse businesses in the city. You cannot do that without us actually having a city that is more welcoming for businesses. Just down the street from here, I just met with a mom and pop restaurant that said it took them 12 months to finally get a license to operate. That's 12 months, folks, of paying $10,000 rent. I don't know how long that will take for them to make that money back, but they're struggling. And they're struggling because there's just a lot of red tape at City Hall. The one thing that I will do as your next mayor is ensure that city staff has the resources to be able to be freed up so that we can fast-track business licenses so that we can become a more welcoming community for small businesses.
Okay. Richard, do you want to respond to that?
Okay. Oh, that's great. We actually did that. We have fast-tracked, and we now have a single-stop office that allows the fast-tracking of business licenses. And I don't know the particulars of that restaurant, but a whole lot of the licensing for a restaurant is the health authority, and we don't have any authority to do anything about that. But we in Coquitlam have done a tremendous amount of work. There was a challenge a decade ago, no question, but we have improved the processing times for a wide range of permits, partly because it needs to happen for business. But in the end, a bunch of that regulation is about health and safety, and it's required regulation.
Mr. Hine, can I have a quick comment on that before we go? So the business is just one block away from City Hall. And one thing that I've heard from small businesses is not only that they don't feel the support necessary for them to actually establish, flourish, retain, recruit people that can actually work in this city, but the one thing that's missing is that they feel that they're not being heard. To be a block away from City Hall, somewhere where if you're the mayor of the city that's activated and wanted to get people involved, it's just a short stroll away. Aside from that, to get a sign, folks, a sign, once a business gets established in this great city, to get a sign actually approved takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months. A local bakery took them 6 months, and it's anecdotal. A local bakery took 6 months for them to actually get the sign approved so they can put it up so that they can operate their business. That is simply unacceptable. We need the mayor that will make sure we put people first, small businesses first, so that we can ensure that this is a viable city for people to move here, to live here, sustain a living here. Thank you.
It's actually not true either. It doesn't take 6 months to get a sign permit. It's actually a simple counter, assuming the sign conforms with the sign bylaw. If it doesn't conform with the sign bylaw, then clearly you'd have to apply for a variance or something else. To get a sign permit is at the desk.
Okay, good. Well, I think we exhausted that question for now. Let's move on to the next one. It comes from Slido. It's home ownership is still a goal of many young families who want to achieve. What policies do you intend to implement to allow young families to reach that goal of home ownership? And we'll start with you, Bill.
Thank you. A shout out for everybody that's here, and a shout out for the young people that still cannot vote, but you're here tonight. Just applaud just to show us how many of you are in the room. I've been in this community for a very, very long time. My family moved here, as I said at the opening statement, with the hope and the dream that we can actually grow up and grow out of the house. I have 5 girls at home. We have 2 bathrooms. I do want to see the day where I can actually have full access to my bathroom at any given day. We love them to death, but we want to make sure we have some room to breathe. I share this with you because the concern of many young families in this city is a concern of mine. And this is why I'm actually running to be your next mayor. Because I've had enough of just sitting by and watching things skyrocket as they were. Mr. Hind asked the question, what would I do? Some basic things that we can actually implement on day one. And that is that any rental subdivision that has already been approved, that has been there for 40 years, is not going to be touched by developers unless we can secure that it will be a rental purpose-built building. That is one thing that we can actually do, 1 for 1. Doing that at last gives us a stock of housing that people can actually have an option to rent, as opposed to thinking, how am I going to get 1.5 million to own a house?
Okay, so, Mr. Stewart?
Well, the question was about home ownership, so I'm going to answer the question that was asked. And once the one comes up...
So if that wasn't a way to answer it, sorry, you're missing the point of the people aspect of the housing affordability. No, I'll let you speak.
Please. I'm not missing the point. I spent my life in housing affordability. I founded the Society for Housing Affordability in BC in the 90s. I did a whole lot of work and I continue to do a lot of work on the issue of housing affordability. And housing affordability, particularly on the ownership side, is something that local governments can have some influence on, and we have had enormous influence on. Unfortunately, one local government among 22 can't solve Metro Vancouver's housing affordability problems. We can't. But we can do an awful lot to get there. And among the things we've done, for example, is the Housing Choices program that's available in sections of our community, and it successfully allows for smaller homes, essentially, on the large lots we've got. How do you get smaller homes on large lots? You allow for multiple, say, 2, 3, or even 4 units on a single-family lot. You allow laneway housing, and we've done carriage homes, and we've put in place the zoning abilities that are being looked at by communities across the region because they've been so successful at achieving home ownership for families. There's much more to do because we have a constrained region.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our current mayor certainly has said that he's advocated for housing affordability for over 3 decades. That's 35 years. I was at Ranch Park Elementary 35 years ago. I'm now a dad of 5, looking for some shimmer of hope. To say that you've been an advocate of housing affordability, but yet taking tens and thousands of dollars from developers shows that there is something that we've gone miss. Now, to say that you've been advocating for it, as a hockey dad, the Canucks, if we have not seen the Canucks go to a playoffs for over 35 years, and yet we have the same coach advocating for the fact that we will make it one day, will we then say, we'll give you just 4 more years?
I wasn't coached 35 years ago. I was a young father of 4 children.
So you said you've been advocating for housing affordability for over 35 years. Did I get that wrong?
Sorry. I wasn't a coach 40 years ago. I wasn't in charge of the team. We are now doing that work, and we have been doing it for the last decade and achieving enormous gains in housing affordability in Coquitlam. I get that it's an easy solution for you, but there's a whole lot of communities that have been wrestling with this because we are a constrained region. We don't have any more room to grow. So rather than continuing to sprawl as other communities have done, we have to tackle the issue in our communities. There are some communities that aren't tackling the issue in the community, but we are tackling that issue, and we are achieving enormous gains in the provision of affordable homeownership and rental housing right here in Coquitlam.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next question. It says, as a city councilor, but we'll make it as mayor, in what ways would you help build our economy and attract new businesses?
That's a great question, Mr. Hyndman.
And who started last time? You started.
Oh, forgive me. It's the young blood in me. I'm just...
I hear you. Right here. You used a Canuck analogy. I wasn't sure what's going on. It's all good. Mr. Stewart.
Many of the things that Mr. Gamar has mentioned are things that local governments do all the time. We reach out to try to attract new business. We set up zoning. We, for example, simplified our industrial land zones from 9 zones down to 3. For decades, we didn't get any kind of industrial work. We now are achieving some of that industry right here in Coquitlam. For example, this afternoon I toured a magnificent industrial facility. This particular company has 2 Coquitlam facilities that ship around the world food products. We are attracting those kinds of businesses, partly because we're right in the middle of the region and we've tackled the transportation challenges that allow now businesses in the logistics industries to be able to move around. We have also lowered our industrial rate and our business tax rates. Every single year we've managed to get a 1-point tax shift, and that's been going on for 15 years. There's much more that can be done, admittedly, and we are going to continue to attract more and more business in concert with the Chamber of Commerce and the communities that we work with.
Thank you. Bill?
I do want to acknowledge that I actually have the utmost respect for Mayor Stewart and for anybody else who's served as long as you have for our city. So I want to commend you, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart, that it's a great honor to be standing here in front of you. I've addressed that in terms of the red tape, Mr. Hine, in that what we're hearing from local businesses is that they're really concerned about how long it takes to actually get a business up and running. Lest we forget, as a city of Coquitlam, we are competing with 20 some odd cities in the region. Mayors compete with other mayors in terms of how much business they can attract to our city. We need a fighter, a person who is able to speak to businesses. In my line of work, I've consulted Fortune 500 companies. I know what it takes, the political will to actually get things done, particularly when it comes to businesses. To attract businesses here, and we've got a great opportunity, folks. We've got a SkyTrain, we've got densification that is working in central Coquitlam. We just need to make sure that we attract the right businesses here, meaning businesses that want to stay, establish themselves, and hire people that are local so that we can make sure we have sustainable economy here in Coquitlam.
So we're in agreement.
That's good. We have time for one more question, maybe a quick one. We have one, Alex? Alex, you've got to be really quick. Okay, one issue do you feel?
The next one suggests that I have to, it doesn't work very well with an incumbent. It's up to you.
True. You know what? We're going to call it a day for you guys right now.
If it doesn't work for the incumbent, Mr. Hine, if it doesn't work for the incumbent, let the new blood answer the question. I think it's a very low answer. We only have a minute and 20. I'll only take a minute.
I hear you. I hear you.
What is the question, Mr. Hine?
I hear you. Just chill. What is one issue you need feel is not getting enough attention from City Hall, and what do you intend to do about it should you win? Now, you're not in agreement with your council all the time, so it may be an issue. So go ahead, Richard. You got a minute on that one.
That's for me?
Adele, yes.
I appreciate that. I think one issue that is not getting enough attention is public engagement. When I look at the agenda coming through City Hall and see that there's only one town hall annually, the opportunity for folks like you and me to be able to stand in front of council, mayor and council, and address our concerns, I think is unacceptable. We need to make sure that we have a mayor and council that's held accountable to you on a monthly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. I have seen people, Mr. Hine, come to the stand to actually address mayor and council at public hearings, and they're literally shaking, physically, not metaphorically. And I've spoken to many of you here that are very intimidated by City Hall. And we want to make sure we have a mayor that actually speaks for people, that listens to people, a person that is willing to put people first. And I will guarantee you that if I'm fortunate enough to have your vote on October 20th, that I will be that mayor that will listen to you, that will serve you and your family and for your interests. Because that's what I see public servants are intending to do. Thank you.
I don't know. We're going to allow Richard 1 minute.
Thank you. Okay. So I don't know how long you've been following council, but we actually have 2 town halls every year. We also have a number of other opportunities, including a budget consultation process, a wide range of consultation processes. Some of our consultation processes are so extensive that we bring in childcare, we bring in... I agree that the public doesn't get engaged enough, and we have reached out so much as a council and as a community to bring in the public and to have them be engaged in our community. So I think that's not answering the question. I'll tell you, we need to work more on childcare. I've been pushing for childcare. I know that Councillor Wilson is actually the advocate on council for childcare, and we really need, I think, a better focus and I think an initiative related to the city on childcare. We had a meeting this morning actually that included that element. But even though it's a provincial responsibility, I think there's more that we can do in order to encourage childcare provision inside residential buildings.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, everybody. Okay, so next up, we'll invite Brent, Daryl, and Steve up. Since Massimo is not here, we'll just go with 3 on this one. Okay, so first question from the chamber is, what steps would you take to reduce the cost of doing business and create a more streamlined and business-friendly environment in Coquitlam? And I'm going to start down that end, Mr. Adams.
Well, thank you very much. Something that we've been working on for a long time in the city of Coquitlam. We created our Business Improvements Committee, which has made over 300 business improvements since 2010. We just opened up our Q-Link office, or Business Link office, in the City Hall on the main floor for people in business to come in and ask the questions and get help before going to culture, to help them explain the process and guide them through the system that is complicated for people at times. We've done that part of it. We have an economic development manager that we hired a number of years to do attraction and retention of our businesses in our city. We've been working hard at streamlining the processes for business applications and making it easier for business to get started in this city. It's a challenge that we're continuing to work on to make businesses feel welcome, attractive, and successful in our community, because we need business in this community to thrive, to be a place to live, work, and play. So I want to continue with that work that we've been doing, continue to refine the process that we've been done over the last number of years. It's an ongoing process, but we are working at it, and we're going to make it better as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, thank you for the question. I fortunately have been able to also register my business at Business Link, and it was a very efficient process, so I applaud the city for having that. But one of the things that I've realized in talking with others is that sometimes the information is there, but not everyone is also understanding on how to get that information, whether it's from the various business communities. So when I look at some of the infrastructure that we can have, maybe some of the online resources, and look for ways that we can continually fine-tune that type of process, whether it's through technology or with different people at City Hall, to help everyone create their business, but also see what that process is to take it to an office space so that they can grow their business here in Coquitlam. And so I would take a look at the infrastructure, look at the data that we have, and see how we can continue to fine-tune.
Okay, Daryl?
1 minute?
Yep.
All right, well, I think both mayoral candidates, got to get that right, Richard Stewart and Adele Gamar had they nailed it with 2 big points there. So first of all, in my work as a commercial banker, I deal with small business owners in our community every day, small and medium sized. And one of the issues they run into continually is red tape. Now, it's very easy for me to stand up here and say I want to slash red tape. A lot of my other competitors will say the same thing. But let's use a sign. Adele, it's actually a similar story. A customer of mine had to wait 4 months for a sign to be put up. They paid for the sign company to come install it. The sign company didn't have a permit in the city of Coquitlam. I mean, come on guys, that business probably installs signs across all of Metro Vancouver. They need a business permit with every municipality. That's one example where I look to cut red tape. Mayor Richard Stewart made an excellent point when it comes to split property taxes. I mean, a lot of landowners, commercial landowners, have had huge property windfalls near SkyTrain stations. But the companies that are leasing that land are being broken. I mean, I talked to one small business owner. His property taxes went from $20,000 to $80,000 in 1 year, and I agree with Richard Stewart. Something has to be done about that. Thank you for letting me go over.
Anybody else want to jump back in on this one? Anyway, you all guys all good? Okay, next question. What's the next question, Alex? Okay, so now mayor candidates are for council. So what do you plan to do to support youth in Coquitlam? And we'll start with Steve.
Well, that's a great question. Knowing that our median age is 41, we have a lot of young families. For myself, I'm in the sandwich generation. I have a nephew and niece that are growing up here in Coquitlam. And I've sat on the board of Place des Arts for the last 5 years, and also on a committee member for Access Youth. And so it's about some of the activities that we can have, not only with athletics, but also recreation, explore some of the outdoor activities that we have, just like the mountain biking, I guess, community that we have that's growing, but also look at some of the facilities, arts, culture, and heritage, just to get people involved, especially youth, so they have something to do and keep themselves occupied, but also develop some skills and create some friendships as well.
Daryl?
Thanks for asking. So on my platform, there are 3 key pillars. The first is responsible development. The second is parks and recreation. The third being restoring communities. Parks and recreation especially applies to youth. I grew up in this community. I played lacrosse. I played hockey. I was active in youth groups, also involved in arts and other cultural activities. The more we can invest into our parks and recreation benefits our youth.
Right.
Well, I want to say that we've been investing quite heavily in our Parks and Recreation Department, diversifying we have opened up more artificial turf fields. We built the Forum. We renovated the Quarry Ice Complex. We just came from the Smiling Creek School opening on Burke Mountain, where it's a shared responsibility where the school is built there. We built the park and the playing field beside that. Working together with others to leverage our opportunities to create more assets. We've created more parks in the city. We just rebuilt Rochester Park. I talked to some of the residents there. They're loving that thing. Their kids are more active. They're leaving their computers at home. We've been investing in facilities, expanding our trails and our networks in this community. So we've been investing strongly in facilities and improving facilities for our youth in the city to get them out, get them active, and be involved. And we've been making our parks creative, and you'll find that some of the results that we won awards on. We won awards on the Town Center Park design, Queenston Park in the Burke Mountain. We are creating parks that have different assets in the different parts of the community, so there's different elements for kids to go and try and get them active. But one of the biggest things we want to get kids out of the house, away from their computers, and being active in the streets and playing around. That's a key focus I want to
Thanks,
keep
Brent.
on. Thank you.
One of the hot topic items seems to be home ownership, affordability. That seems to be one of the things resonating through. It's getting the most votes. So be forewarned, you're probably going to get this question, everybody. So the home ownership question is still a goal of many young families, many people in general, right? It's not just young families want to achieve. What policies could you, why do you change that when I'm reading? What policies do you wish to intend? Do you intend to implement to allow these young families, or families in general, to reach the goal of home ownership? What can you do to help? I'll start with you, Daryl.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's a huge one. In fact, that spurred me on to run for city council. You know, if you look at the statistics, almost half our elementary schools are facing declining enrollment, 6 out of our 7 middle schools are facing declining enrollment, and 3 out of our 4 high schools are facing declining enrollment. That's because young families can't afford to live here anymore. So that's why responsible development is so important. That's why Rob Mazzarolo and I came up with I think, a unique platform that a lot of the other candidates here are starting to borrow from. What I'm going to do on council is I'm going to push for more 3-bedroom homes. Coquitlam has always been a great place with lots of single-family detached homes. I grew up in one. I have a feeling a lot of you live in one. Last 5 or 10 years, there's been a lot of 1- and 2-bedroom condo units built. You can see the construction. Town Center, great development near the town center here. Coquitlam's new. They're trying to develop Austin Heights, but they're building with the wrong units. We need more 3-bedroom units so families can live in our city. More young families need a 3-bedroom house to live in. That's 3-bedroom condos, 3-bedroom row houses, and 3-bedroom townhouses.
Thanks, man. Brett?
Well, thank you very much. We as council have been producing development in this city, densifying certain areas. What we've done is we're trying to create a wide range of housing options and choices to fit the people with the different income levels to purchase. From the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, we've been advocating for more 3-bedroom townhouses and apartments. We're also working on trying to get developers in high-rises to do rental lock-off suites. So if you have a building, you can have a rental lock-off suite in a high-rise development. As Mayor Stewart mentioned, we created the Housing Choices Program, which allows for coach houses. It allows for the splitting of a large lot into 2, 3, 4 smaller housing units on a lot. We've been advocating different types of development from mid-rise to townhousing to work that whole range of housing options for people out there. It's not an easy solution to do, but we're trying to create a wide range of housing options for people to afford and get into the market. And we've also been working hard in the below market area. And right now we're working with Habitat for Humanity on a piece of land on Burke Mountain to create a different type of home ownership to get people into the housing market. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Steve?
In a lot of ways, I agree with both Mr. Rasmussen and Mr. Sigler. But I would like to add that having a strong rental unit, I guess, or buildings in the city, whether it's purpose-built or others that can increase that supply, we are also going to help and give people a chance to save money so that they can also have a down payment so that they can also buy a home in the future. So if we can increase the supply that meets the needs of everyone, but also give everyone that ability to save some money as they're getting, as they're living and working, I believe that will also help to add to that. I would also like to add that if we can continue to build our local economy so that people can actually live and work here instead of commuting outside, they'll have more money back in their pocket, in addition to having more time with their family and friends. And I believe that way, if we can continue to retain our talent here, provide high-paying jobs, also provide rental, and the options that they can buy locally, I think then we can have, we're on a good path.
Mike, can I jump in real quick? Mr. Asmussen, I say this with all due respect because I really do like you, but I hear you talking about more 3-bedroom homes, and I'm looking at the City of Coquitlam annual report, and here's what I see. I see for 2012 to 2014, there were about 200 townhouses built per year. In the 3 years following, it was 99, 44, and 148 in 2017. It's like the city finally got back to it. So please don't tell me that you guys are building more 3-bedroom units, more townhouses, because that's not what the numbers say. Second of all, you talk about coach houses make things more affordable. In fact, they do not. I know from my work as a commercial banker, when you put a coach house on a single-family detached property, it actually makes that property more unaffordable, because that property now can generate more income, therefore an investor or even a family is willing to pay more for it. So coach homes, I would caution council, please don't just throw them out there thinking that's the cure to the housing affordability crisis. It actually makes the problem worse.
Well, I'd like to respond to that, and the fact of the matter is that we're trying to create a range of housing types in the city. And we're asking developers to create 3-bedroom units. But the other problem with the 3-bedroom unit over a 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom unit is its cost. It's not going to be cheaper, it's going to be more expensive. And one of the things that we have to look around this community is the missing middle. And that missing middle, a lot of them can't afford those 3-bedroom townhouses or apartment units. So we have to be realistic of what we're trying to achieve. But we need a variety of housing options that we need to help all people find that market that they can get into. Thank you.
Steve? Anything to add?
Well, you know, I would say that the more that we can continue to build out and, keep a balanced approach to the types of zoning and the types of coach housing that we can have, I'll leave it at that.
Can I just touch into Mr. Adamson's comment there?
Really quick.
Okay, really quick. You talk about the missing middle, and you say 3 bedrooms are more expensive than 2 bedrooms. Well, yes, I know that. There's a lot of families that are stuck. They're stuck at 600 square feet, 700 square feet, and they want to move into a 3-bedroom townhouse or a 3-bedroom condo, but they're not there. Okay, so that's the missing middle. We need to build more of those.
Right, once again, we're providing the options. If you're asking the taxpayer here to subsidize that option, I don't know what you're asking, but we are trying to provide those range of housing options. And Mr. Kim made the point, we're also trying to provide more rental opportunities and more rental stock for people. But you need those options for people because everybody's income and issues are at different levels.
Real quick one here. So you talk about encouraging more 3-bedroom units. Well, there was just a development that was approved 2 months ago. It was about 360 units, and only 36 of them were 3 bedrooms. So please don't tell me, and those were penthouse units, so please don't tell me you're pushing for more 3-bedroom units. Rob Mazzarola and I have been saying this publicly since May. You guys have been getting paid. You should have been paid for city council. You should have addressed this issue long ago, not now in the summer after we...
Steve, you want to jump in on this?
I'll just end this one comment. Yep. It's very easy to say that you should do more and affect that. But the development may not move ahead and they may not want to do it because they can believe they can sell it at. So I always like the people that are saying you should do that, but how are they actually going to detail and do that? And that's the issue that we're dealing with.
Okay, no. Big round of applause for these people. Okay, next up, we'll welcome up Craig Hodge, Ben Craig, Rob, and Dennis Marsden. Okay, from the chamber, your first question is a business question as usual, as it should be. Are there specific types of businesses you would like to attract to Coquitlam? And if so, how can you incentivize that to happen? Okay, is there certain businesses you would like to see Coquitlam attract? Where? That's a good question too. And how would you make that happen? And I'll give you a second to think about that. We're going to start down the end there with Mr. Hodge. Okay, Craig, whenever you're ready.
Well, first of all, majority of jobs that are created, about 80% of the jobs in Canada are created by existing businesses. So I think first off, we have to make sure that we're providing a good climate for existing businesses to continue to grow. Another area is, of course, is home-based businesses. And while I was at the Chamber president here, we advocated for changes there. So we allow people to operate businesses in their homes. So I think that that was one of the big advantages too. As we grow the town center core here next to a SkyTrain station, I want to see more people working here in Coquitlam, not taking the SkyTrain station to an office somewhere else. So one of the things that we can do is to encourage more commercial development in our towers. In the past, we have forgiven developers or let them defer that commercial space. We've said that's not going to happen anymore. I want to see that we get that commercial space built because we've seen it in Port Moody, and I believe that if we build it, they will come. So I think that's one of the key things. I also think that as a region, particularly here in Coquitlam, we have to protect our industrial lands because those are where the high-paying jobs are. So if you're going to live in Coquitlam and you want to live locally here, you've got to have high-paying jobs, and so we can't just rely on tourism-type jobs or service industry.
Okay, next is Ben.
Thank you for the question. So, we have to make Coquitlam a business-friendly place. Now, clearly that's not happening. And there's a lot of rhetoric at City Hall about creating this economic engine to bring new businesses into the city. But all you have to do is look at that 50-car lineup that I had to get through to get here tonight on Lougheed and Barnett. This is a bedroom community. People are leaving here in the morning to work in other cities. They're coming back after 5 o'clock, and that's why we get those lineups. So if we are to create some kind of economic engine in our city to appeal to new businesses, we have to address the tax situation. Businesses in Coquitlam pay the second highest tax rate among 20 municipalities. The business tax relative to our residential tax rate is 4.5 times. There's 163 municipalities in BC. That puts Coquitlam somewhere in the 160 plus downside.
Thanks, Ben. Rob?
I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent on this. We do need good jobs in the community. I would like to see us have more living wage employers in our community. We have businesses that are struggling to attract employees. We've seen businesses bringing in temporary foreign workers to fill those jobs. I work as a life skills worker with adults with both physical and cognitive disabilities. The barriers that these individuals who are important members of our community face in obtaining employment, everyone says we don't discriminate, but the number of adults with disabilities that have employment in this community is shameful. As a city, we have an opportunity. There's this concept called job carving, where you can actually create jobs. And as a city, we have an opportunity to have a pilot program. I'd love to see it, which starts employing adults with disabilities, because most employers don't understand the concept and they think these people cannot work. It's going to take leadership to get jobs for persons with disabilities, and we have the ability to do that. Let's lead by example. All workers in this community matter, both seniors, young people, and persons with disabilities. That's what I want to see.
And just for all candidates, I got a text here saying, please speak into the mic. So a couple people that may not be able to hear you. Okay, so Dennis Marsden.
Great. You know, the issue of jobs and employment is something that I championed when I was the president of this Chamber of Commerce. It's something that we worked on when I was on the board of directors of the BC Chamber of Commerce. Specifically in Coquitlam, when you ask what type of jobs we want, family supporting jobs. We want jobs that are going to pay an income that are going to support our families. That is one of the key components when we talk about affordable housing, is the income levels. So people can live and work here. They don't have to commute. They don't have to be in that lineup that Ben speaks about. The key is creating that environment. It's the incentivizing the office space. It's about making the connections. It's about ensuring that the construction that Craig says didn't happen gets done. Last month, in 1 week, we received inquiries for 100,000 square feet of office space from employers. We don't have 100,000 square feet of office space ready to go. We need to move forward and ensure we've got the office space ready to go so the businesses that are looking to relocate are ready to come here at that time.
Thank you. Anybody else want to jump back in on this discussion?
Just a quick comment on the taxation rate. Our small businesses in Coquitlam pay a disproportionate amount of the property tax burden. Small businesses in Coquitlam own 15% of our property. They pay 40% of the property tax. Now, the fact that businesses do pay this disproportionate amount, it appears on the surface to benefit residents, but those benefits are illusory. The fact is that every penny, nickel, dime, quarter, dollar added onto our business taxes goes directly down to us, the consumer, and raises our cost of living.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think one of the things to talk about when you want to talk about affordability and taxation is ensuring that you can grow that base so you can spread the taxation out. Property taxation is the least appropriate, the least equitable taxation that we have in the entire Canadian system. But it's based on ensuring that you can expand the base so there's more paying it. I spoke to a business owner in the town center just this week who spoke about the fact that his business taxes have gone down each of the last 2 years. That's attributable to the fact the base is increasing modestly, and we have seen some very dramatic increases in some areas, which is a challenge that we're going to have to address with the BC Assessment Authority and the provincial government, so we can more equitably distribute the taxation that's there. It's about increasing the base and equitably distributing.
Thanks, Mr. Marsden.
Okay, the other thing that we have been doing as a council, and this is going to take years, and we've been working on it for years, is we are shifting the tax base from businesses back onto residential. When I came onto council, it was 3/4 of a percentage point each year was shifted from the business community onto the residential taxpayer. Shortly afterwards, about 6 years ago, we raised that. It's now a 1% shift. But that's a challenge because you're shifting it onto the residential side away from business. But the residential users, they're the ones that use the bulk of the services. So we're trying to be more equitable in how we distribute the tax. But at the same time, it's not just the tax rates. You have to have a good business climate. That means cutting red tape. One of the things that I championed as soon as I got onto this council was a single business license for all the Tri-Cities. So we have to look at things that we can do that make it easier for businesses to survive, not just worry about what the tax rates are and other things. It's a whole package, it's a whole suite of things that we need to be doing to make it affordable for not just businesses to operate here, but also for people to live here.
Thanks, Craig. Rob?
The only thing I would touch on, and please bear in mind, my background is in history and building relationships. The economy is not my strong point. But one thing I would like to see is more cooperation amongst the cities, because with cities competing for business, it's the race to the bottom. And really, when you have workers in Port Coquitlam coming to work in Coquitlam, I think we can see some more regional cooperation for business. As Craig said, eliminate some of the red tape.
I want to touch on that, just to build on it, if I might.
You've got 30 seconds.
So two things. First off, in order to balance out the business and residential taxes, a $25 million shift from business to residents. And I don't think our residents are prepared to take that because of decisions made 20 years ago. So we got to move forward with it. And then to Rob's point, absolutely, that's why from a Metro Vancouver perspective, our economic development department is working to ensure we more look at regional economic development. So ensure that cities are looking and working together to attract businesses and saying, what's the strength in Coquitlam? What do we have? We've got the ability to build office. What does Port Coquitlam have? They've got an industrial land base.
Right.
They've got the ability to build industrial lands, and we can bring it together and attract them here.
Thank you. We're going to go back to that home ownership question that's been floating around. It seems to be very important to everybody. How do you propose to help home ownership for families in the Tri-Cities? What can you do? We'll start with you, Ben.
Great, thanks for the question. So home affordability here, I think our cities have tremendous leverage. Much of the time this responsibility gets passed along to the province, but I think the cities need to own this issue. The fact is that we are the first line of defense, you can say, against rezoning. So when a developer wants to come into a single-family neighborhood and build 600 units, they don't go to the province to get approval. They don't go to the feds to get approval. They come to our city hall. And this is why I believe that our city has tremendous leverage in terms of crafting the vision to support more rental, subsidized housing, co-op. My church is redeveloping right now. We have 55 units of rental, and they're all 30% below market. And so there's ways to craft these deals, and to think that there's nothing the city can do really shows a lack of imagination. Thank you.
With housing development, one thing we're not talking about is that it's all well and good that we're talking about how people can own a home, how we can protect rentals, but what we haven't talked about are the people that are sleeping in our parks, that are homeless, they're sleeping in their cars. 3030 Gordon is at maximum capacity. They have to be part of the solution. These are people that are part of our community. So we can keep building homes, but if we want to be an inclusive and diverse community, we have to address that issue as well. And that means we have a provincial government that is willing to commit money. We have not-for-profits that want to work with the city. We have a federal government. We're going to a federal election. You can bet that the taps are going to be turned on for housing. We need to partner with those people, and we need to not just look after homeowners and renters, we have to look out for the disadvantaged in our community.
Thanks, Rob. You can talk about the homelessness issue if you want in there too, if you like.
No, I'm going to talk about the home ownership question that's before us, and Rob makes some nice points there. We can chat about that. But home ownership is about having the options available. The ability to go out and purchase a single-family detached home is typically going to be achieved not as a first-time home, but as something you've moved up into. You start as a condo, you move into a townhouse, and you move up. It's what I did with my family. It's what so many people that I worked with for 25 years in taking care of their mortgage needs, that's what they did. So we need to ensure that we've got housing options across the spectrum. We've got to get smaller houses on smaller lots. We've got to look at row home opportunities, townhome opportunities, and of course the condo market. And we need to get creative. The city of Coquitlam is working on a project with the Habitat for Humanity to do 40 affordable housing units, home ownership units here in Coquitlam. I've talked to another not-for-profit provider that's looking at putting together a project with BC Housing that's going to have home ownership as part of the project. So not just affordable rental, but affordable home ownership. It's about working with those relationships with the senior levels of government. That's how we can tackle it. That's how we can get our folks into the marketplace and move their way up to the single-family detached.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Hodge.
Okay, I'm going to build on that because I agree with everything, and I think we have to start moving in a new direction as our economic, the economy around us changes. I mean, I'm raising 3 boys, they're teenagers now. They're already thinking about where are they going to live. The one thing I know is they're not going to grow up in a home like I grew up, and not many of us could even afford our own homes today. So there's a new reality of what home ownership is going to look like in the Lower Mainland and here. And it's going to be a variety of different homes. It may be starting in a basement suite, moving up to a 1-bedroom in an apartment, and then moving out to that 2- and 3-bedroom condo or something that's a wood frame where you can start to raise a family and start to build equity. The key is you have to have options to starting to build equity. We're looking at a number of projects that allow people to come in at a lower price and to start building that equity. The other thing that we have to look at is not just the cost of housing, it's what I call affordable living. And we have to make it so that young people can live here, that they don't need a car, which is the second biggest expense, and we have to find ways that we can increase more childcare, which is the third largest expense. And together that creates a package. And if we can lower the other costs, that gives them more money that they can spend on housing and start to build some equity so that they're able to start moving up those steps. It's just that they're going to start further steps behind what we did, and they're going to have to move their way through, and we have to make sure that there's a variety of stock and different types of housing so that they have that ability to move.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. That concludes it. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, candidates. Thank you.